Happy Wednesday, right? I was going to say Tuesday. It's not Tuesday, it's Wednesday. I hope you all doing good. I hope my mic and video is coming out okay. Let me know in the chat if it's not. But in any case, I do want to wish you all a great lunchtime here. And it is Wednesday, and this is Automation Tech Talk Lunchtime Edition. And feel free to chat in the both on YouTube and on LinkedIn. And of course, you'll always find the audio, the video, and the transcript up on the automationblog.com later in the day. Typically, right after the show's done, I try to get that all up there before going back to work. So, in any case, today I was going to do one thing and I decided to do something else. So, we're actually going to take a look at discovering automatically discovering IO, so you don't have to crank in all those different part numbers. And we're going to do it today for Rockwell. And I did have some things that I've been telling myself, Sean, you got to kind of remember to mention some things to everybody when you're doing the show. So let me just pull my notes up here and bring them over to the screen right below here so I can read them. So first of all, the idea for today's discussion about discovering IO, adding IO, reading IO was based on some lessons. I actually I found some bugs in them, so I had to re-render them. So I'll be updating them, and several of the courses over at the Automation School are getting updates, including my compact logics and control logics. They're getting the most updates today. But in any case, I also wanted to mention that I already have two industry veterans who I'm talking to about coming on the Automation Museum's History of Automation podcast. And so I mentioned this because we already have three shows in the can. We talked to experts about the history of Triconics, the history of InTouch or Wonderware, and the history of Rockwell PLCs. But again, these are things where we want to have multiple guests on about each product and to share their own experiences with them. And everybody remembers things differently. Like some people remember some features, other people remember other features, and so on. So we have two new people who I'm talking to to get them to come on the show. And I want to invite you, whether you're a vendor, a user, integrator, OEM, if you have done something with automation before the year 2000, I'm just using that as a kind of a benchmark, right? So, we're talking legacy stuff. We're not talking, 5370s and 5380s or S7, 1500s or 1200s, or M262s if you're a Schneider guy. But we're talking, older stuff, legacy stuff. The Automation Museum is not going to be a museum of what just came out this year. It's going to be a museum of all that old stuff. And I want to thank everybody who sent me stuff in. I will be doing more Automation Museum videos on the stuff you guys send in. I got a PCMK card. I got a Net Alert or Net Alert, I think, device too that I want to show off. So in any case, thank you everybody and for that. So what else do I have to cover here before we get started? There is no podcast today. The next podcast, it takes like a day to produce every podcast. So I'm taking this week off because I just got so much else going on. The next podcast will be next Wednesday, of course. We release on Wednesdays, and that'll be on IO-Link, and that's going to kick off a bunch of IO-Link coverage. So I've been working after hours and weekends, getting all the IO-Link hardware I have together built into demos that we can not only use as labs here in the office, but also to do videos on. So we got Siemens, we got Rockwell, we got IFM. Even had a good friend of the show send in some stuff, so we'll be looking at the stuff he sent in too. It just depends if I can get it working at 5 o'clock in the morning when I'm drinking my coffee, but hopefully I can. And also, I'm looking at some really cool 3D simulation software I want to use in the school, but it can also be used as a digital twin, and it's affordable. It's not like the $10,000, $50,000 packages you see out there, right? So I've actually been working on that, working with the vendor on that after hours as well. And a lot of things going on. We are getting ready. I just got off the phone with the vendor, actually off a meeting with the vendor. We got an exciting new episode coming up on OPC. And then we have another episode coming up on Ethernet push buttons. This one actually was requested. We actually have the equipment here, but we're waiting for the vendor to schedule that. I'm also, guys, you probably remember the Metal Athletic trade show demo I have in there. I'm just going to work through a couple of bugs, and that video should be coming out. And I actually have a major vendor approach me and said, Sean, come and interview our folks at our trade show. And so we're finalizing the details on that. So that'll be in several weeks from now, but I did want to share that with you guys. So in any case, hey, before I forget too, and I want to say greetings to Nicholas. Before I forget, anybody, any of you guys out there, if you've learned something you want to share with the rest of the community, please just send me a message. I know we had people sign up and then they couldn't make it. Customers call, the boss calls. I totally get that. Totally get that. But if you are using, I saw one person said he had created a video showing people how to use safety in a Siemens drive, and he got a lot of really good feedback from it. I mean, those are the type of things, you know, a lot of you probably don't even know where that video is, right? So we want to get people like that on the show to talk about, you know, what they've done and sharing useful tips. And I think it'll be easier on the audience if they're not always hearing from me all the time, because I've been doing this for full time now for over 10 years, going on 11 years. And so you guys, you know, I got thousands of videos and articles, so you guys know all about me. But in any case, let's go ahead and go over to the computer. And again, feel free to chime in on the chat. Let's see if I have everything set up here correctly. I think I'm in the top right. So of course, this is a live thing right over my face, but that's okay. I don't think you guys see that. So in any case, what are we going to look at? We did not want to see my desktop. We wanted to see VMware. Okay, and I'm actually in, and if you guys didn't notice here on the workbench, I have an old SLC 500 full of stuff, just full of I/O. And I tried to pick up so many different types of I/O modules for my course, which I'm filming now in the SLC 500. So I wanted to pick up a real, you know, assortment of I/O cards. You know, and I could go in there and I could say, you know, let me type in each and every model. But one of the great things we got with the SLC 500 that we didn't have with the PLC5, now correct me if you think I'm wrong, but I don't think there's any read IO config on the PLC5. Maybe I'm just having a senior moment, but I don't think it existed. But in the SLC 500, it did. And this also worked for the compact, for the MicroLogix as well. And so what you could do here in this old platform from the 90s, early 90s, late 80s, is you could go, of course, RS Logix 500 didn't come out until like 95, 96, right? I beta tested it. It was really cool. When it first came out, it was like WinLogix 5 on steroids, right? So in any case, what I'm going to do here is I got Studio 5000 open in the background. Let me hide that a little bit. I'm going to go to IO configuration, and I'm going to do something called a read IO config. Okay, this is again a feature from the 90s, early 90s, right? And watch this work. Right now, I do have to have the path to the PLC correct, or I can't read the IO config. But I'm not online, but I'm giving it the path to where the PLC exists. Read IO config, and look at that. It started off with a 4-slot chassis, and it was like, whoops, let me minimize that, get that back. And it was like, nope, he has a 13 slot, I guess. And look, I have an IB, ITB, IB, IB, IV, IV, IB32, OB, OV, NI4, NO4I, and IO4I, NO4I, blah, blah, blah. But look at it, read it all in. I didn't have to type that all in. Now, how often are you going to have all the equipment on your desk before you actually create your program? Maybe not that often. But this was a feature I loved about the SLC 500 and the MicroLogix. And, you know, so when Rockwell came out with ControlLogix and CompactLogix, and it did not have this feature, everybody was kind of like, bummer, that kind of stinks, right? And so, but they added it. They added it in starting back in version 20.011. Yes, I looked it up. And what they did, though, is they only added it for originally 1756 modules. And so that left all the CompactLogix people just kind of hanging out there with no way to find their modules. And so what would happen is, so here's on the left-hand side, I got an L33ER that both these PLCs are in the other room, in the training room. And if I right click on the bus, the 1769 bus, and do discover IO modules, yeah, it's not as good as the SLC 500. It's so sad. No, and we know that it knows, right? How do we know that it knows? Because in RS Links, we can go out there and we can see everything that's in that chassis. Of course, I can't see it here because I have an EDS issue. Okay. So if I could upload the EDS file, but I have a problem here. But typically, if you didn't have the problem I have now, you would be able to expand the backplane and see all the IO modules out there. And yeah, see, this is one of the things that happen when you just like come on to lunch and you're like, yeah, let's just do a show. And, you know, should we try to register the EDS file? Should we try to do this live? I think it's somewhere here, right? I know it's in, where's the EDS? Well, probably easy to go here. All right, so let's close that window. Let's do tools, EDS. I don't even know if I have it on this hard drive, do I? Oh, well, we'll take a little side trip here. Let's see if the EDS tool launches. Here it is. Okay. Let's see, register. Let's register a folder, directory. Look in subfolder, sure. Where would it be? Where would I have put it? All right, I don't even know if I have them. Nah, all right, so forget that. But in any case, if everything was working, we would be able to see all the modules on the backplane. Just like on the L16 I have plugged in, right? You would be able to see any point IO modules I have on that, right? And that is just the way it works. And a little secret here is I believe that the backplane on both point IO and on 1769 is actually based on DeviceNet. So we always get all the information. We can see all the modules, and that's a great thing. But apparently they couldn't figure out how to get it into the software. I mean, I'm assuming it wasn't a commercial decision not to add it into the software. I'm sure it was a technical decision. But with the L30, the 5370s, right? So much newer than the SLC 500s, they just couldn't get that Discover modules to work. So very sad. So maybe they could get it to work, but they couldn't get it to add it online. I don't know. But here's the good news: if you have gone to the newer, right, to the 5380s, if I right click on backplane and do Discover modules, yes, okay. It's like, are you not going to work? What's going on? But in any case, yes, we're as good as the SLC 500 from 1990. Woohoo! But and this works for 1756 as well. Originally, it was just for 1756, and I think PowerFlex drives. I went to grab the latest release notes, and every time I say, give me release notes from version 21 to 37, it just crashes my browser. So in any case, I didn't have, again, this is Automation Tech Talk lunchtime edition, so I got my entire lunch to prepare for this. So I couldn't go any farther than that, but pretty confident that it's 1756, 5069, and PowerFlex drives. I could not confirm whether or not Flex 5000 supports it or any of the servers support it. And if anybody wants to shoot me, I did search the knowledge base. So, you know, if anybody thinks I missed something, let me know. But I think it's not a very wide support on that. But now I can go ahead and create. Typically, you just create them all, you know. And because this is not full screen, it does give you a warning about adding modules online. And let me pull this over here so you can see it added it right there. And so this is actually, I did a new lessons on this for both ControlLogix and CompactLogix as part of another lesson where I'm adding I/O and testing I/O and all that good stuff. But in any case, I wanted to do everything in the version 31 plus because I know we had some students who, I think I mentioned this yesterday, who've never used version 30. You know, they're lucky; they've been sheltered, only used 31 plus. So. You know, when they don't see this blue background, they would get a little disconcerted. But in any case, so that's what I wanted to talk about today at lunchtime. And I want to thank you guys for tuning in. I'm just looking at the list of stuff I covered at the beginning of the show. I don't think I have anything else left. Again, being the lunchtime show, there's not a lot of prep that can go into this. But in any case, we do have another message in the chat that I want to say. Person's asking about the BRX, the BRICS system, and he has 2 servo drives. I don't have any movies on any videos on the BRICS. I've only done an unboxing on it. I have tried to get the Automation Direct folks on many, many times. I think they're a great company. Again, I know Siemens and Rockwell guys and Schneider guys are probably rolling their eyes, but you know they're you know just because you like Honda or BMW or you know Chevy doesn't mean you should poo-poo Dodge or any other, you know, or Acura or some other, you know, Nissan or some other company. So they're, you know, these companies have been around for a long time, so they're going to be doing something right. In any case, so yeah, sorry, I won't be able to help you with your BRX. I don't have a course on any of the Automation Direct stuff. Not that I don't want to, it's just timing and market, right? So when you're self-employed, you got to do everything you can to keep the lights on. And with that, I got to get back to work. So I want to wish you all, I hope you enjoyed today's show. I want to thank you for joining in with me please reach out to me if you want to come on and share your expertise with the audience. And just want to wish you all good health and happiness. And until next time, my friends, peace.